Hello and welcome. Today, my team and I will be presenting a guide to understanding the statutory and legal requirements of the 6 key milestones for selling a fee simple property. Firstly, when engaging a vendor client, the real estate agent will need to establish whether there are interests on the property, such as easements. They will also need to establish if the property has any defects or requires building consents. The agent should then recommend an information pack to be created by the vendor's lawyer. The agent must advise the vendor that within the provisions of the information pack, there will be inclusive legal costs. In accordance with Rule 9.7, before a prospective client signs an agreement, the licensee must recommend the person seeks legal advice. Next, the agent will need to draft up an agency agreement. However, Rule 9.9 also makes it clear that the licensee must not submit an agency agreement until all particulars have been attached to the document. Before a potential selling vendor can sign an agency agreement, the agent must explain and detail in writing the following: the conditions which commission is to be paid and how the commission is calculated while providing estimations, when the agency agreement is to conclude, how the property is to be marketed, including the estimated expenses for advertising. There should be a clause stating the client is not obligated to agree to additional advertising expenses. The next milestone is marketing the property. Under Section 9 of the REAA, a licensee must act in the best interest of its clients. The agent must not put their client in any position where they're in unfair pressure. Agents must not mislead possible customers to the satisfactory price for the vendor. Under Clause 10.2 of the Real Estate Agents Act, any appraisal provided by real estate agents must be provided in writing to the prospective client. The appraisal should realistically portray the current market condition of the property. Under Section 10.2, if there is no comparable evidence provided, this should be explained in writing to the vendor. Under Section 10.4, advertising prices must clearly reflect the price agreed upon between agent and seller. Under Section 10.7, agents are not required to discover any underlying problems or defects with the vendor's property, but must disclose known defects to the purchasers. Under Section 10.9, an agent must not market and advertise any land that is different from the property authorized by the seller. Next is potential offers. Rule 10.10 states that the agent is required to communicate all offers to the vendor. A counteroffer may occur, or they will write back and get the real estate agent to communicate the parts of the agreement they aren't ready to accept to the purchaser. This will continue till both parties are satisfied. Once both parties have accepted the offer and the terms and conditions, the agent will be required to complete the agreement and communicate the acceptance of offer to both parties, and a contract will be formed. Communication is important between both parties. With no communication, it may lead to tribunal disputes. Next is entering into an agreement. An ADLES sale and purchase agreement will need to be drafted with all conditions and be discussed with both the vendor and purchaser. The agent will need to ensure all conditions have been met before making the deal unconditional. Under Rule 10.7, the licensee must disclose any defects to a prospective purchaser. The agent must ensure that the sale and purchase agreement is signed by both parties. It is important to include conditions and make the conditions known within the agreement, as without it, it may lead to disputes. Payment of deposit. A real estate agent has many obligations he or she needs to follow to satisfy their key statutory and regulatory requirements. The payment of the deposit most commonly goes to the agent. The agent will then hold the deposit as a stakeholder. This means that they are holding the deposit as a third party or neutral party. If the real estate agent is holding the deposit as a stakeholder, this will be for 10 working days. Real estate agents holding a deposit can only release the funds early if there is signed authority by both parties allowing this action. Furthermore, commission is not deductible if the transaction fails. If KiwiSaver finances are used to purchase the property, then the real estate agent does not have to hold the deposit, as this clause is amended and the vendor's solicitors will hold the deposit until settlement date is reached. Settlement of sale. Under Clause 3.1, the agent must include a gain of possession clause within the ADLS sale and purchase agreement. The agent needs to ensure that the settlement date is agreed upon between the vendor and purchaser. Clause 3.2, the agent is required to complete a final inspection of the property and the process of settlement will take place. Settlements are usually done before 4 p.m. However, it could differ depending on the agreement between both parties. If settlement isn't completed before the agreed time, then the seller is able to change the late payment interests.